Hello and a very warm welcome. Today I wanted to walk you through a really fascinating passage from the Quran's third chapter, Al Imran. It gets into this profound question. How can a book that's meant for guidance have verses that are crystal clear and others that are more allegorical? And as we're about to see, the answer actually tells us a lot about the state of our own hearts. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get a handle on the two kinds of verses the Quran says it has. Then, we'll look at how they become a test for the heart, what tools believers have to stay strong, and we'll even hear some warnings from history. And finally, we'll finish with this powerful, real-world proof from a famous battle. So first things first, the passage basically starts by telling us how it's built. It says, hey, this book is made of two different kinds of verses. And understanding that difference, well, it's pretty much the key to unlocking everything else that follows. Which, makes you wonder. If the whole point is clear guidance, why have any ambiguity at all? Why not just make everything perfectly straightforward? Well, as the text explains, this very feature is designed to be a deep, deep test of a person's faith and their sincerity. So here they are, the two categories. On one hand, you have the muhkamat. These are the solid, foundational verses. Think of them as the core beliefs, the clear laws. That's why they're called the mother of the book. They're the bedrock. Then you have the mutashabihat. These are the unspecific or allegorical verses, the ones that talk about unseen realities or use parables to teach a lesson. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The fact that you have both of these kinds of verses creates a sort of fork in the road. It ends up revealing two totally different ways people approach faith, and it all comes down to the condition of your heart. So on one path, you've got those with, as the verse says, deviation in their hearts. They actually hunt for those unspecific verses, not because they want guidance, but because they want to stir up trouble and twist the meaning to fit what they already believe. But on the other path are those who are firm in knowledge. Their response is just simple, total acceptance. And this verse it perfectly captures the difference. It all boils down to humility. The people who are firm in their faith, they accept that the ultimate, perfect understanding belongs to God and God alone. They don't need to have every single mystery solved to believe. They just trust the source. So if this is the test, how do you make sure you stay on the right path? Well, the verses that come right after give us the answer. They give us these incredibly powerful tools in the form of prayer. And this is the first prayer. It's a direct plea to God. It's this beautiful recognition that guidance isn't something you just get and then you're done. No, it's a gift that you have to protect. So you ask the giver of that gift to keep your heart steady. The second prayer then shifts our focus to the ultimate reality, the day of judgment. By saying this and affirming this certainty, it just anchors your faith. It's a reminder that at the end of the day, there is accountability, and that helps put all our worldly arguments and doubts into perspective. Okay, so we've seen the principle of the verses, and we've seen the prayers to stay firm. Now the text really raises the stakes. It shows us the pretty stark consequences for anyone who chooses to go down that other path. It makes a very blunt point here. All the things people chase after for power and status in this world, their money, their powerful connections, their family name, the verse says none of that will help you, not one bit, when it comes to God's judgment. And to really hammer this point home, the Quran doesn't just state it as a fact, it points to a pattern, a cycle that has just repeated itself over and over and over again throughout human history. It draws this straight line, from the arrogant people of the Prophet's time all the way back to these mighty empires of the past, like pharaohs. They denied God's signs, they were arrogant, and in the end, they were destroyed. The warning is pretty clear. History tends to repeat itself. And now, this is really cool. The argument pivots from these historical warnings to a concrete, real-time proof, something that the people listening to these verses for the first time had actually just seen with their own eyes. That proof is the Battle of Badr. And listen, this wasn't some ancient story for them. This was a recent, life-altering event for that early Muslim community. It was a battle where, by any worldly logic, they should have been absolutely crushed. I mean, just look at the numbers here. It's staggering. You've got this small kind of ragtag group of about 313 believers, and they're facing a powerful, well-equipped army of almost 1,000. The odds were completely and totally against them. But then, a sign happened. The verse says that the disbelievers' own eyes played tricks on them. They looked at this small Muslim force and saw them as being twice as big as they actually were. Just imagine, that was a sign of divine help designed to create fear and chaos in the ranks of that much bigger army.
And that right there is the ultimate lesson of Badr. The battle wasn't won because of strategy or swords or numbers. It was a clear, undeniable sign that real victory is a gift from God, and He gives it to whoever He wills. It was the living, breathing proof of everything the previous verses had been explaining.
So let's just bring it all together for a second. This passage builds this incredible, airtight case. It starts with a core principle that Scripture itself is a test. It shows us the right response, humble faith, and gives us the tools to keep it. Then, after warning us that worldly status is no protection, it delivers the final proof, the Battle of Badr, where divine support overcame impossible odds. And all of this leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? These verses from 1400 years ago are all about how to deal with unclear signs and how to hold on to faith when you have doubts. And it just makes you think, in our own complex lives, which are so full of ambiguities and confusion, what serves as our foundation? What's our anchor?